I ended up working under this woman who was not very nice. And she was constantly trying to get me fired. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't like this at all. And my mom kept saying to me, she's like, you have to play the game, Simona. Like corporate is a game. You have to play the game. And I'm like, I don't play games. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, you either on or off. Like, you either come with or like rise up with or fall away. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And I was like, I don't like this. And I don't like games and I don't want to play games. And so I think I'm done playing games. So then in that moment, I was like, how do I get myself out of here? And what is the easiest way for me to do that? The easiest way for me to do that was setting up my freelancing profile.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Social Media Entrepreneurs Podcast, teaching you how to become a full-time entrepreneur by leveraging modern social media strategies. I'm your host, Derek Videll, and today I'm joined by Simona Costantini. Once again, very few people have made it back onto the podcast, but I saw Simona at a podcast conference a couple months ago, and she's always great company, and she's got some really great things going on. The amount of sales that she's doing compared to how long she's been an entrepreneur and the corporate transition. I mean, the whole story is just really awesome, but most people don't find this level of success so quick. So as we're doing now with the interviews lately, we just get right into how people are making money so that you guys can get some ideas for starting a business off, because what she's doing doesn't necessarily need a ton of all of this education to do. You really just got to find the right problem to solve and then find a way to get clients and then get after it. And she's got a great mindset for entrepreneurship overall too. So we're going to get right to the money. But before we dive into that, just give me that brief story. Cause like it was only 2.5 years ago you were working a corporate job, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my background is in PR marketing and communications. Went to school for that, did that for like 10 years. And then the world shut down. And so did my corporate job. So I lost my corporate job. And it was interesting though, because I was still being paid through the company because I was furloughed, but I ended up building my entire business. So I kind of like, I was working, stopped working, started building my business, very briefly went back into corporate, and then decided at the end of 2021, at the end of 2020 that I was done. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way and I'm going to make it work. So I left my corporate job with no idea of what I was going to do. And I started my podcast production company because other people kept asking me, hey, can you help me launch my show? Hey, how do I do this with my podcast? And then I started putting the clues together and putting the dots together and was like, hold on, this could be something. So I launched my services on Facebook of all places and literally put one post out there and was like, hey, starting, podcast production services. Anyone need a podcast launch? Like, let me know. And instantly within 72 hours booked out my services. And then it's been nonstop ever since.
And how many employees do you have now?
So I've got myself that I have like on payroll, quote unquote, if you will. And I have a lead editor on my team, 2 content creators on my team, and a guy who does shorts for me. So 4, but they're all freelancers, but they do pretty much almost full-time hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think you're going to expand from there, or what's the near future look like?
That's such a good question. I don't think so. I don't think right now. Like, I feel like I finally got the right people in place, and hiring people and, who you're bringing into your team is so important. Do they have the same work ethic as you? Do they see your vision the same way? Are they here to support you? And do they want to be there for the long haul? That is like so important when you're hiring people. And so I'm honestly not sure if I'm going to continue to expand it, but I feel like I've got everyone I need right now in their spots.
So how did you start off making an offer to people? Were you like, I'm going to do your show notes, I'm going to press publish? I mean, it probably evolved so much. Tell me how your offer has evolved from the start to now.
You know what's funny? So the first offer that I ever offered was podcast launching. Let me help you launch your podcast. So I looked at all of the components that people hate doing. because those are the easiest things to sell, in my opinion. When you take the stuff off someone's plate, why else do people hire things out? It's because they don't want to do that stuff, right? If you think about a VA that you hire, it's because you don't want to do that social media marketing, or you don't want to do the X, Y, and Z piece. So I looked at all of the things that people don't typically like to do when it comes to podcasting, and I created solutions for every single one of those problems. So for example, we would do, actually it was just me in the beginning. So I would do cover art. I would design their social media templates for them. I would get them all on the distribution channel, like everywhere they need to be, Apple, Spotify, all that, set up their hosting platform, edit their first 3 episodes, and then do their show notes. And then, so that was my launch package, and it's evolved a lot since then. So like now I'll do like consulting on audio. I'll help people set up their studios. I'll go into people's spaces and record with them in person, like all kinds of stuff now. So it's quite different now than it was when I first started, but the basis is still the same. And then what happened was all these, these clients of mine launched their podcast, and then they needed someone to manage their podcast. So then I was the same thing. Okay, well, you tell me what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and I'll build a package around it. So it included editing podcasts, doing their show notes, pulling out their social media content, creating the content, doing all of their uploads, like, hosting platform, YouTube, to their newsletter, to their blogs, and all that. And one thing that I did, and I think this is something that kind of set me apart in the beginning, was offering those additional things and doing them really well. And then when I realized that we were starting to get busier and busier, I brought on my first VA, who's now like main content creator for my agency, who works a lot on my brand and stuff like that. And that was like 2 years ago, pretty much 2.5 years ago, I would say, almost. And she's been with me since the start. We had the same vision, same mission. She wanted to be a part of it. She was excited. I taught her, how the podcasting world works, and then just kind of hit the ground running and went from there. But I think the key is your service and your product and your offer, whatever you're offering, needs to have a very clear solution to the problem that your ideal client is having. Anyone can produce podcasts. Anyone can do all that stuff. What they can't replicate is who you are. I've had so many people rip off my services and offers and this and that over the years, but the one thing that people can't rip off is me and the quality of the service that we provide. So once we perfected the packages, I really made sure that that client experience was the tightest client experience it could be. It was high touch, it was caring, it was kind. Like, I really involved my own personal values into the experience that people were receiving, because you're receiving a partner. You're not just receiving a producer. And that's the piece that sticks. And that's longevity. Like, I've been working with some of the same clients for 2.5 years, which is wild.
That really is the key to running an agency, because there was this phase, late 2010s, where a lot of people would start agencies. They'd get clients, run their Facebook ads for 1 to 3 months, and you're just doomed to fail eventually. You can't always be prospecting new clients. You want to get to the point where you're at, where you're almost like, I don't even think I'm going to hire more employees, and maybe you could take on a few more clients. But now you're offering different levels of your services. So we'll talk about that. But you were saying, like, you as a component and you having this tight-knit process and getting people great results, that is your retention component. Mm-hmm. What was ultimately the way you needed to package this problem and solution to get clients on the front end, rather than saying, let me launch your podcast? Was there like a specific single sentence that you really found was like the key to how to propose your services?
Yeah, I care about your podcast as much as I care about my own. And I would never put anything on the air that I wouldn't do for myself. And that shows people a specific level of support that you can't get just anywhere. When your team, so I now am part of other people's teams, when your team is part of the fabric and the fiber of what you're creating, that's a true partnership. And that's where success lies. And that's where it's continued to lie for me and my agency. Like, I'd say like 90% of my, like 95% of my, my done for you services clients, like my management clients and launch clients, are referral based. And it's great because you have someone else like vouching for you, but you don't get people vouching for you unless you do a really good job. So you have to do a good job.
Did you need to niche down of what kind of podcast you were looking to help in order to find people that were willing to pay the price you're trying to sell at?
Yeah, I thought so. So in the
Business
beginning,
podcasts?
yeah. So in the beginning, I did a lot of, and I actually still do, digital marketing, business, parenting, health, wellness, and spirituality. They kind of all tend to skew in sort of that area, mental health, like that kind of stuff. But what I found is it's not so much like what the niche market the person is in, but it's more about the type of person that they are. So the types of people that are my clients tend to skew more energetically aligned, more, I don't, without going full woo, but like, more spiritual in that sense, but not like religion spirituality, like spirituality. And we all we share the same values, and we also share the same goal of their show. And so it's more the people. And then of course, like I have my niche markets that I would rather like work in, and that type of content. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that would be important because there's a lot of people
Yeah.
wanted to start shows on automotive and just talk about
Yeah, like
cars, but they
that's
don't really have
not
anything to sell people. They're just kind of
no,
wanting to do it for fun, and maybe they would sign up for your services for a little bit, but it would be difficult
exactly.
to afford the rate that you're wanting to charge long term.
Exactly. And I like that's actually such a good point. I've had a couple of clients who've been in different like niches that like I don't really like play into too much. They've been amazing, and they're amazing experiences because you get to learn a lot. But I I want to like the content that we're putting out there too. Like I want to be interested in the content. Like I wouldn't be the right person for you if you're doing a gaming podcast because that's not my interest and I don't like it. If you're doing an automotive podcast, I don't really know much about it, but like I'm happy to help and I'm happy to help produce, but I think that you need to make sure that you're like actually enjoying the content that you're consuming, especially when you're listening to so many podcasts a week. Like you have to like the content. It's so key.
Are you editing any of the shows now?
No, not really.
No.
I edit a couple here and there. Like I like to spot edit and like audit them and stuff like that. And like I'll listen to when stuff comes back from editing, I'll listen to it just so I can continue to give my clients feedback. Okay, we should do this differently. This is how I think we should change this. This is how we continue to grow. Because what I learned from my marketing background, and so, let's say you start your career out in corporate, there's a lot of value and there's a lot of skill in that, in all of those different things that you've done before you decide to dip your toes into entrepreneurship. A lot of the things that I pulled from my journey in corporate was the strategy side of it, the constant evaluation of things, understanding marketing and understanding the trends that come with that. And then how do you look at the market and project what's going to happen with as much information as you have? And how do you always stay current? How do you make sure things are being seen, and how do you position content in a way that is going to get people to resonate with it, right? There's ways that you can do that. I was on a coaching call this morning with a client and we were talking about her 2024 strategy. All it took was for her and I to sit down on a call together. We looked through what she was doing. We decided to add 2 different things to her show, and it's going to like amplify her presence in the new year. And all it takes is just like being able to look at things and seeing what is going to change, how is it going to change, how do we stay relevant, how do we target the message, and how do we drive it home.
So going back to the point where you posted on Facebook to sell out your services,
Yeah.
what came first? You saying, you know what, I want to leave corporate, I'm going to post on Facebook and hopefully this works? Or were you like totally fine with your corporate job? You're like, what if I did this on the side? And then all of a sudden you're like, actually, this could take over as my full-time thing.
So I was a freelancer for a couple of years while I was working in corporate. And while I was working in corporate, this is like hard veer left, but I was a life coach. And so I was doing that. So I had life coaching clients, and that was a really great experience. And then friends during that time started to ask me, can you help me launch my show? I'm launching a podcast. What did you do? Teach me what you did. So I started putting together different resources of like, okay, this is what I did, blah, blah, blah. So then when I left corporate, I had to leave because I moved so far away from my job and they wouldn't let me work from home. And it was like the middle of the world shutting down. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to drive 2 hours each way. That's not happening. And so I left my corporate job, but also was building. I had my editing clients, my freelancing clients that I was working with already. And so when I left, I had messaged them all. I was doing it through a freelancing app, and I messaged them all. And I said, I will give you a better rate if you come with me directly. I wanted to be able to build a relationship with people. I don't like doing work with people where I don't know who they are on a personal level. Like, I want to know, like, how did your kid's baseball game go? You know, did they make the soccer tryouts? Did she love dance? Like, did you dance in the Christmas parade? Like, all those things. Like, I like to know those details. And the only way you can know those details is when you bring people into your ecosystem. So I gave them a little bit of a price break for coming with me one-on-one. We both saved on the processing fees too, which was really good. And then it grew from there. They saw the quality of work. We would talk on Voxer, which is a messaging app. I know you know it. And we would talk through there. And then you start to build a relationship with people. And then they would say, oh, you know, I have someone who's looking for an editor as well, or I'm looking for someone who's looking to launch their show. Would you be interested in talking to them? Yep, no problem. Sounds good. And then anytime a client would bring me a referral, if that business closed, I would give them a free episode. And so that's how I sort of started, especially in the beginning. And it wasn't a lot of money by any stretch, but I knew in my mind that my plan was to leave the corporate world. So I made sure that I had some savings, like I had been saving extra on the side so that I could afford to live. I think it was like for like a year, which might be a little excessive. 6 months is probably fine. But I wanted to make sure that I could live for at least 6 months to a year before taking that leap, because just in case, you need to have a little bit of like a nest egg, right? And then once I brought those clients over, things started to pick up really quickly, which makes sense looking back. Like, it makes sense. I've always loved the communication industry. I just didn't know how to do it in a way that I actually wanted to do it. And I think when you listen to those little nudges from the universe, you find your answers, but you have to be open to listen.
And that's how you became a 6-figure Canadian dollar entrepreneur. So like 4 figures US.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
no,
wow. Let's do it. $1 billion podcasting queen. No,
she makes like 1,000 US a year. So 2 million Canadian.
The opposite way.
But so sorry, I was like, I want to say this joke, and now I got
myself. No, it's so funny. I love it.
What was like the defining moment when you were working your job where you knew that you wanted to work for yourself?
Okay. Without throwing too much shade to the company that I used to work for, I won't name who they are, but my manager kept trying to get me fired because she didn't like me. I got a new manager. So I used to work under this guy. Oh, I can't tell you.
I'm just kidding.
I can't tell you, but I would. Okay. I'll tell you offline. That will be under the Patreon account. No, I'm just kidding. Behind the paywall. So I was working in corporate. I worked under this amazing guy. Like, he was like so great. He was such a great leader. He embodied so many of the qualities that I wanted to have as a leader whenever I led my own team one day. And he told me that he was going to the sister company, and I was like, okay. And he's like, Simona, it's going to be a great opportunity for you. Don't worry. Like, you're going to shine. It's going to be wonderful, whatever. No, the complete opposite happened. I ended up working under this woman who was not very nice. And she was constantly trying to get me fired. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't like this at all. And my mom kept saying to me, she's like, you have to play the game, Simona. Like, corporate is a game. You have to play the game. And I'm like, I don't play games. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, you either on or off, like you either come with or like rise up with or fall away. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And I was like, I don't like this. And I don't like games and I don't want to play games. And so I think I'm done playing games. So then in that moment, I was like, how do I get myself out of here? And what is the easiest way for me to do that? The easiest way for me to do that was setting up my freelancing profile. And I just kind of like in the back of my mind was like, it will grow and it'll get to where I know I want it to be. Might take more time than I thought, but I spent like 2 years building on the side before I went on my own. That's a huge misconception, I think, too. Entrepreneurs, a lot of them, especially you see on social media, this overnight instant success. And like, you know, we've seen a lot of success within my agency, but that's also not without a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of worry, like all that stuff. Entrepreneurship is like the biggest healing journey I've ever been on in my life. Yeah.
Facts.
So
to get like a overall like blueprint of your strategy. So for someone listening, like, okay, this is all great, but like, what do I do? So like if they're in their corporate job, how would you give them like step-by-step to how they might assess where their opportunity might lie?
I like that question. So I would say, take a look at what you do, like your skills, like what are you good at, right? Whether it's the job that you're in or something else, what are your skills? And how can you take those skills to transfer you into something to make you money? Can you consult, right? Do you like the online space? Can you do something digital? Are you really good at, sales? Like, are you good at selling products? Like, and then I would say start to explore the different interests that you have paired with the skills that you have. So, I mean, we talk a lot, like you can talk about like drop shipping, Shopify, paid ads, agency, whatever the coaching, whatever the space is, it comes with an interest and a skill. So I would say like list all your interests, list all your skills, and almost like crisscross them and see like, does this match with this? This matches with this, this matches with this. And you probably would find yourself in a spot that's actually surprising of the amount of things that you could actually do, because that way you're not limiting yourself that I can only do this one thing. And I think too, there's a certain amount of trial and error. Like there's been so much stuff over the last 2 years that we've launched and tried and this and that. And like maybe the marketing was off or the timing was wrong or I don't know what. And it didn't do the way that I thought it would. But I think give everything more than one shot. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I ran a group coaching program earlier this year for podcasters looking to start their podcasts. I sold 2 spots out of it and I wanted 10. And I was like, okay, do I run this program? Do I not? Do I run this program? Do I not? And then I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to run it and it's going to be amazing. And people will launch their podcasts and it'll be really great. I'll get experience like the end. So then I decided to run it again in the fall. And I was so like mind blocked about the launch that happened previously. And I was like, no one's going to want this. No one's going to care about this, blah, blah, blah. And so I self-sabotaged my own self. Okay. Purposely didn't show up on my stories, purposely didn't market any other content, purposely like just didn't do anything. And then I had a mindset shift maybe about a week before the program was about to start. And I was like, the worst thing that I can do is just talk to people about this thing. And they can say no, but they could also say yes. And so I ended up selling in that 1 week, 6 spaces for that coaching program, all in like the last week. So I think a lot of the times, true for entrepreneurship, true for sales, true for anything, if we get too much in our own heads, you can sabotage the thing that you want the most before it even starts. But you have to be able to recognize that pattern.
I just posted about that on my story where I was like, I don't really have that many superpowers apart from I don't doubt myself and I just start immediately before I can even, think about, oh, what if I'm not meant to do this or whatever. I kind of look at it like standing on a diving board, staring at the water. Like the longer you stay up there, the more the fear becomes real. You don't gain confidence standing on the diving board. You just have to jump in. So it really is. How much would you say that is a trait that someone can learn versus they're born with?
Oof. I think that it comes with practice. And I think it comes with getting to know yourself even better as a human being. I think that, there's like people who are, quote unquote, born natural leaders, you know what I mean? Where people say stuff and they're like, oh yeah, I like what you have to say. Like, let me follow along. Yes, for sure. That's a very real thing. But there's also people who are not like that, who also do very well. I think that you have to sometimes dig really deep to find that inner confidence, because when you decide the outcome of something before it even happens or before you even give it the chance to happen, you're saying and you're dictating that the success of that particular thing either will happen or won't happen based off of your own set of beliefs, right? So if that's what you believe, that's what's going to happen in your life. And I just think that we definitely get in our own way. How much of that is, learned versus, I think it really depends. Like if you're someone who's born into, a family, let's say, that's like super supportive, you're going to grow up thinking you can do everything. Like, my whole family supported me for every single thing that I did. And you'll still have doubts. But if you come from somewhere where people are like, you're nothing, you will never be anything, you cannot do this, blah, 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 you're going to have so many more hurdles to get to where you want to go. And I think a lot of the times we have dreams, we have goals, we have things we want to do, and we have stories that stop us from doing those things. And I think when we play too much into those stories, you're taking away an opportunity for yourself, because you're going to try something and you could fail, but that failure is just a redirection into something different and something that you may not even have awareness about yet. So if you don't take the step and start, you're never going to know where you're going to land. And so do you know what I mean? And like, if you do, so let's say you start, you fail, get redirected, you start again, you do something different, great. But if you've never even take the step towards a potential failure, how are you ever supposed to know what you're going to do? And things look different and things get redirected and changed all the time. And that's okay. Like, things are allowed to grow and evolve. But you have to just bet on yourself.
I think as you were talking there, I was like, I don't think it is something that you're either born with or you're not, but early development does matter a lot. Like if you got really bad grades in school, your parents never believed in you, and you just have like a long history of not doing well, then it's very difficult to, like, the more you stack failures, the harder it is to get rid of them. And then the more you stack successes, the easier it is to just approach each opportunity thinking that the same thing's going to happen. So just to touch on that real quick for myself, I always say, like, if you're in that frame of mind where you just keep getting all these losses, you need to just go get some kind of win that you can just like choose to do. So something that it's like purely action based, like do some kind of fitness challenge, like over the next 60 days, I'm going to do something fitness related every single day, and do not fail. Like, do not stack another failure. Just like get your board up. Give yourself 60 squares. If you're like, I don't know if I can do this, 30, 14, whatever, just say you're going to do something and then 100% do it. Like, don't be like, I'm going to sell $10,000 over the next 2 weeks, because then that's got too many variables
so much
on
pressure.
whether you can do it or not. But like make it an action-based goal so that it's a matter of just doing it or not.
Exactly.
And don't let yourself fail that. But you need to start getting some stories, trending in the other direction because confidence comes from your reality. You can't just fake it.
Exactly. And like, if you hate video, okay, well, I hear this a lot. I'm sure you hear this a lot too in the social media world. Oh, I don't like my voice. I don't like myself on video. I don't like, you know what? I don't either. Okay. I don't like listening to my voice back. I'm like, oh my God, she sounds squeaky. Like, but that's okay.
I'm going to edit it.
What? Oh, you're going to edit my voice?
I'm going to edit your voice up a couple octaves.
Perfect. Wonderful. So it's going to be extra intense for everyone who's listening. I love that. But like, let's say even if you don't like being on video, challenge yourself every single day to just go on video, or challenge yourself to post a story every single day on social media. Like, I had a huge social media aversion, and I was like, I hate being on social media, but I didn't like it because I didn't like the type of content that I was consuming and, whatever. Change your habits, change your life, right? So if you just commit to, I'm going to show up on social media for 2 weeks and I'm going to do it every single day, and I'm going to share my message, I'm going to talk about something specific, you've just built a muscle within you to continuously do that thing.
So going back to growing your podcast business, something that stuck out to me is how you have scaled your services, but within the same market to the same customer, which I think is really key. And so like, you're doing podcasting done for you service, and then you added on a done with you service, like you were talking about before, that program, and then also a do-it-yourself course. So you're still selling to the same person, but it's just like, how much do you want to spend and how much help do you need?
Exactly.
Tell me about why that is like a key strategy for someone to consider scaling a service-based business.
Oh, I like that. So not everyone can afford the top tier price that you're going to put out there. And when you're in the service business, you are in the business for sure of helping other people. And so in my mind, I was like, well, how can I help more people access what it is that they want to do and create, bring their voice to the mic, and get really excited about the message that they're sharing? If someone can't afford the launch price, I want them to still be able to learn how to launch it, right? And so I essentially just took my framework that I use with my clients and I turned it into a course. And then I just started selling it, which was great because now people can just do it and follow at their own pace. Then what I realized though the most is that even though like all these clients wanted the same thing, even their own skills were so different too. So my done for you service clients, they don't even want to do anything with it. They're like, let me hit record. I will send you the file. You take care of everything. Great. Sounds good. But then the people who want to do it themselves are people who have, video editing skills, audio editing skills, social media skills. And they're like, I can do it. I just need a framework. So you got to think about the different people that would approach you and the different things that you could help them with, and then finding those solutions. So a lot of the stuff that we created was in a response to the questions that we would get from clients all the time. And then we just built out over the last couple of years, all of our product suite, but those things all didn't happen overnight, right? Like, and then I tried to use them strategically. So in my group coaching program, for example, I give them access to my online course for free so that they can go and do the extra stuff, like even more of the nitty gritty on their own. And then they have that accountability piece that they're looking for as well. So like, find the different pieces. How do they work together? And then also, how do they work apart?
And it's so key to just sell this. You're selling the same solution, but just like 3 different levels of do it yourself, done with you, or done for you. Exactly. Because then you can just be branded as like the podcast queen, or whatever you call yourself.
You can call me that if you want.
And because otherwise, if you're like, I'll do done for you podcast, or done for you Facebook ads, or done for you website, then all of a sudden you're posting about all these different things. You're creating content, you're creating email marketing around all these different things. You have a different offer for all of them, and it's a different audience as well. So there's a little bit of audience overlap, but you want it to be like completely just, hey, you need help with this. I'm that girl. And
exactly.
then, I'm the expert in that space. All the content I create is around that. All the emails are around that. And even if someone does like book a phone call with you, then you can say, okay, so this is the done for you price. No, that doesn't work. Let me drop down to done with you. And then you can have drop downs. Otherwise you're just like, okay, like I got nothing for you. Like
see you
that's
later.
The only thing that I sell.
Exactly. And what's really interesting too, though, when you said that, I was thinking to myself, like, I never wanted my business to be anything but doing podcasting. And I see a lot of people, out there, especially like, VAs and stuff like that. They have a whole bunch of different expertise in a bunch of different areas. I wanted to do one thing really well, and I wanted to be known for that one thing. And like, you want to launch your podcast, this is who you go to. Like, that's what I wanted. And that's why I spent so much time perfecting that process and getting really good results for my clients. Right. I think, you have to be sort of like a jack of all trades. Like, you need to know a little bit about everything, but you really do still need to be an expert in one particular thing, I think, especially when it comes to service-based. So like, I'm not the expert in AI, but I can tell you how to use AI to help your production process. It's probably something that I would talk about on my social media and my newsletter and all that, my podcast and all of those things. But, I'm probably not going to be the person to like teach you, in a whole program of just AI stuff, because that's not my niche. Like, we're doing a part of it, but not all of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great that you can add on all these extra services to sell to that client, because you could probably do like Instagram posts for them if you wanted, or write their emails, and it all pertains to that, and then you gain all these extra skills. So at this point of maturity in the podcasting space, do you kind of have your vision on another agency or another company that you're looking to start in the next few years, or are you still?
I do.
Okay. And you
do.
You don't have to share it.
No, I'm happy to share it. To share it. So I'm currently, when I first started my agency, I branded it under my own personal name. And what I'm trying to do now is split, well, actually not even trying. What I am doing now is splitting off my agency from my name. And it's going to be called Volt Productions, VOLT. And so that'll be launching in the new year. And we also have the domain. We have the domain, so don't steal it. No, I'm just kidding. So it'll be Volt Productions. And then I'm splitting that off. My Happiness Happens podcast is going to become its own like self-love, self-help collective for entrepreneurial women. And which is already kind of what we're doing, but we've just been focusing on creating content. Like, I don't really have any courses or programs or anything like that through it. And then on like a personal brand side, I want to bring the reality of life into entrepreneurship, but also like, I'm someone, Derek, you probably I mean, we've been friends for a while. Like maybe you gather this. I'm someone who does things against the grain all the time. Like people say, you know, oh, you get married, do this, do this. Like, and there was a time in my life when I would just kind of follow the crowd and be like, yeah, I should do all these things. But I'm also someone who takes risks into things if they feel good for me. So when I first started my business, my entire family, not all of them, but a lot of them, oh my God, Simona, are you really sure you want to do that? It's so scary. You know, it's a big deal. Like corporate is very safe. It's secure, and it is, but it's also isn't. It's an illusion. Corporate isn't safe, right? You go to work every day for somebody else. They give you a paycheck and that's great. And it works for some people, but it didn't work for me. So I'm very good at like, just because that's the way that everyone is doing it does not mean that I want to live my life that way. And that's a message that I really want to start honing in on and sharing with people, because I live a very different life than pretty much every single person in my life, in my circle. And I'm proud of the life that I've created for myself. And it comes with trust in yourself. But how do you trust yourself when people are just constantly telling you that you're doing the wrong thing? You know? And I think a lot of people don't do the things that they want to do, like starting a business or taking that leap, because people have told them it's the wrong thing to do. You're too old. It's too unsafe. You have kids. You're being frivolous, all these stories. But, you know, when you really take a look and zoom out from life, we're all spinning on a blue globe in the middle of nowhere. Why not take the risk?
Love that. So
Thanks.
who is someone in your life that if if the same person in someone else's life was not believing in them, they would probably be pretty discouraged. Have you had some people like very close to you even still not fully believe in you, at least the way that you want to? I think in entrepreneurship, it's like when you say like, they don't believe in me, it's not like they're coming out and saying like, you suck, like you can't do it, but they're saying little things like, man, your
Yeah,
resume is getting good. You could definitely, apply to
exactly.
get a job. Like they'll say some like passive things like that. Um,
Not so much in my business anymore, because like I come from a pretty traditional Italian family where like, you know, people are like, what do you mean? What's the online world? What is that? You know what I mean? But I don't have, people like to say what they want to say, and I just don't really make it any mind. Like for my family now, they're happy because they see that, you know, I'm keeping a roof over my head, that I'm able to buy that. Like, they're like, okay, she's fine. Like, you know, it looks like this business thing worked out for her. But I have people who question my life choices in other areas of my life. And first of all, would you take advice from, like, why would you listen to something that someone says when you wouldn't take advice from them? You know, like if you know that they would never be able to do the things that you're doing, why would you take advice from someone who you know will never do the things that you're doing? And I don't mean that in a rude way, but like, you know, a lot of people are totally fine with the status quo. People are fine with the, you know, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, get married, have that, whatever, and that's totally fine. And then there's also people who want to create and who want to put things out there and who want to have a bigger impact. And that's cool too, but you need both in society. So it's not a shot at anyone who doesn't want that. It's just that life just doesn't align to me, you know? And so I'm going to keep doing the things that I want to do, regardless of what other people think about it, because they're not living my life. I am. So,
Yeah. Well, you are absolutely crushing it, and I'm
thanks.
excited to see what Volt Productions does and whatever else you come up with from here. I'm sure that you're in entrepreneurship deep enough that you're not looking to get back into the corporate world,
No,
probably ever.
no, I
So,
would become a bartender again before I ever go back to corporate.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll look forward to what's to come, and I'm sure I'll have you back on the podcast. You're in such a different position than where you were last time. Like you're still doing the same kind of business, but it's definitely evolved a lot. And personally, I know
Thank
that a
you.
lot has changed for you. And so have I since then too. So, check out her other shows, Happiness Happens, and then As It Relates to Podcasting. So the second one is the more tactical side of launching a podcast. That's how you can get some free value from her. And then Happiness Happens, I'm going to be coming on soon.
Yes, you
And
are.
we're going to be talking about overcoming addiction. So check that out. And
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for coming on, Simona.
Thank you so much for having me.